about how vulnerable everyone is in this household, right? Think about the roller coaster. Think about the overwhelming sense of dependency, right? People coming and going in the home, you, hospice, families, right? It's a lot to absorb. So if we think about our role and how it truly can take a village, we were saying that earlier today in the other in-services, how it just can take a village to support a household, right? And I think the more help we can have, the better, right? And we got to lean on each other. And someone you might lean on is someone like Miss Lori here out of our Frankfort, Kentucky office, who has a role as an end of life doula. She serves us also as a recruiter in her office, but her background is in end of life care. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Miss Lori. If you'd be so kind to share with us your story.
Thank you so much, Nicole. It's a privilege to be able to talk to you guys about this. My husband gets quite tired of hearing me talk about death, and I get it. I know it's kind of weird, but I'm very passionate about it, and I know that it's part of life. And being part of life, our society should not be so worried about talking about death, and we should be more open to be able to talk about it. But we're just not there yet. So, some time ago, in my journey of working in this sector of home care and what have you, I found this opportunity, and it just, I don't know exactly how I found it. I feel like it was Facebook listening to me talk, but I didn't know about an end of life doula. I had never heard of such. And you will find today most people haven't heard of it. And there are, I want to say, I'm not sure what the numbers were, but when I did my training, there were something like 2,000 end of life doulas, and that's been well over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Um, so, you look at it and you think 2,000 people that do this work, it's not very many, especially when we see, how large our baby boomer sector is, and just people in general. You don't have to be old to get a diagnosis that you're going to die. And the people who um, understand the value of what a doula does are the ones who get the most out of it, because if they come on relatively soon, they really do get to work together with a doula, and the doula's whole job really is to advocate for them. Um, so I have a list of the main duties as a doula: active listening, advanced care planning, knowledgeable presence and guidance about dying, non medical methods for pain and anxiety reduction, facilitate conversations between families and the loved ones, legacy project support, rituals for end of life, vigil planning, funeral planning, um, presence during the active dying, support for the dying person's family and loved ones, and early grief support. So it's kind of a really broad stroke. There's the piece that's helping people with the paperwork part, and the things that you need to do to get ready and finish your business up. And then there's what you want to do and leave for your family. And sometimes that's, sorting through pictures and making albums. Sometimes that's writing letters. Sometimes you will have someone who's really talented, and they have, maybe they're an artist, and they want to paint something for all of their loved ones. There's just a lot of ways to leave a legacy and to you know, and in a way that's very down to earth and simple. It's not like you're spending a whole lot of money or that sort of thing, but just what you want your family to know and to receive from you. Um, my part that I really, really love, all that other stuff kind of is fluff for me because my part is the planning of the vigil and really being there during the active dying stage. I'm very passionate about it. I feel like it's a very sacred space, and I feel blessed to be called to do this work. It's not, I certainly wasn't going out looking for it. And it's just amazing how my path came to be, to even know about it and be able to do the training and have the resources to connect with the people to get me clients, you know. Something we haven't talked about earlier today, but I have two passions that I have not been able to tap into yet. And one is to be able to be a doula for people who are in prison passing away. I feel like that is really a huge sector that is underserved and forgotten about, and people don't. No one should die alone, and that's something I will do one day. It will work out for me. I'll get in the right doors. The other thing that I'm really passionate about is working with veterans. So veterans have something beyond PTSD that is called moral injury. And basically what moral injury is they believe, being raised in this Christian nation, that they're doomed for hell because they have killed someone. And being able to be the doula for these gentlemen that have given their life for this country, some of them are battered and torn and very well wounded in so many different ways. And the VA actually acknowledges that the practice of end-of-life doula is very valuable for these veterans because they basically get on their deathbed, and you know how you try to get your grandfather to talk all these years and they never would tell you anything, and now all of a sudden they're on their deathbed and they're just spilling it all out, and the family has no idea what to do with this. And you have this dying person who's highly emotional about it. The family's upset because they're dying. Now all of a sudden they're hearing all these secrets they've been carrying. And so it is a perfect storm right there for a doula to be able to come in and help navigate through these things that you need to come to peace about before you pass, the things that you probably shouldn't burden your family with, that you can dump on a doula. We were talking earlier about self-care, and there's a couple of things that come to mind to me right immediately is your energy that you bring with you in a room. All of us need to be mindful of that when we arrive at work. Most of your people that you're caring for are ill. They don't feel well, and they don't want you to bring along bad energy. If you just had an argument with somebody and hung up the phone, you need to shake it all off and get good before you walk in the door. And so, because that energy is so important, I spend a good bit of my day journaling and meditating and really just trying to be present without ego, without it being about me, but just be someone who can hold space for this person who is in pain, who is suffering, who is scared, who doesn't know. None of us know what happens when we die. And so knowing that is the not knowing is a very hard place to be. But all of that said, the doula role doesn't take place of a caregiver. You're still there for basic ADLs, whether they're eating or drinking anymore. Usually they don't have that much output because they're not taking much in. And the doula is more there as an advocate and a liaison between this dying person and their family. And to put a plan in place that when we get the call of the ninth hour, I wanted to say this earlier too, and I'll take the liberties to talk about this a minute, but when we get that call and we have the plan in place, who we want to be with us when we pass, what kind of music we want playing, um, do we want candles lit? How do we want our cats on the bed with us? You know, like all those different things that make you who you are. Um, I think one of the most powerful things a doula can do is be in that space and help you so that when they do pass, and it gets really, really belabored breathing, and you think it's done, and then all of a sudden it's not done, and they're still breathing. But when we finally get to the place where they passed, the doula can help you understand you don't have to go out and call anybody. You don't even have to call the funeral home. You can take your time. You can be with your loved one. There's many states that will allow you to actually have a funeral in your home, which it blows me away. But at the same time, you think about we're changing. Our whole nation is changing, and there are some things that would be very powerful for us to be able to go back in time. COVID really helped change the way we had funerals and honored our people. So, you know, like there are things that you learn as being a doula that sometimes as soon as a person passes, the family's all got to make phone calls. Well, no, your phone call could be 30 minutes from now. Your phone call right now, you're in the sacred space. Like just be in this space with your loved one while their spirit is leaving. And so I just really, really love this whole place of being there with these people and honoring them as they die and giving them a good death. You don't hear of people having a good death. Families don't know how to deal with death. They get all crossed up about money and time and who did this and who did that. And having an end of life doula to just try to help facilitate peace and love and none of that quarreling, that's a whole big part of it too. I love it and I feel very blessed. And one of these days when I do get to retire, this will be my full-time gig. And I look forward to it. I feel that it's definitely what I'm supposed to do. And it's every day in my head. There's pieces of it that I work with every day, just on my own time. You know, I'm here. I'm trying to hire some good caregivers that love people. But thank you so much for having me today, Nicole. I find that your job is harder than I thought it was. Yes. So just being a part of your in-service today has been exhausting, but I'm very grateful, and I hope that everybody will take something from this that helps them be better at end of life, that helps them understand better, and that they feel comfortable in being able to just be with your person. You don't have to talk. You don't have to explain. You just have to be, and your presence is so powerful. So thank you so much.
Oh, Lori, thank you. Wow. Folks, round of applause there. My goodness. This is our third round today. Great job, Miss Lori. knocked it out of the park, 3 for 3.
Thank you.
She joined each in-service today. So, yeah, she got a taste of a little bit of how things roll in my world. Yeah, so I'm just so grateful that you are all here today and to be a part of this and to educate one another, right? And just to really appreciate the different roles and how when we work together and have that sense of community, just how powerful that is. We can empower each other, right? And is anybody here interested in that, right? I mean, if you think about it, you know, it's a bit parallel to caregiving, right? And has anyone heard of it? Show of hands again. Okay, a couple of you raised your hands earlier.
How do you spell it?
How do you spell it?
Yeah.
I think it's DOULA.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, something you might mention to families, right? Because Lori, as you mentioned the last in-service, sometimes when we start, it's later than we'd think, later than we'd hope, right? So the sooner the better is what I had gathered from that advice from her earlier. Just like with hospice, you want to start it sooner than later for that support, right? Doesn't mean it's going to guarantee, you know, that end of life time frame is coming up quicker just because you're on hospice, but that's often the assumption, right? So when you plan like that and, you know, can be proactive about it, you feel better about it, right? So you're not scrambling at the end and, you know, the quarreling and the, you know, all those details that might stress a person out already over an emotional, stressful situation, right? So, Lori, thank you again for your perspective. And I'll open the floor now to everybody for questions for Lori. Frankfort, Kentucky is where she's a recruiter at. But she's been willing to be a resource for us, and I can share her email address. Anyone has questions for Lori, they can email her directly. So, Lori, go ahead.
I was just going to say, absolutely. I have a page on Facebook where I try to do a lot of educating. And I just feel like that's one of the really big pieces. It's like, if only a handful of people know about this, and we're only helping less people than that, you know? So it's like the more people that understand and know the value of what a death doula does, the better off we are. And you guys being right there on the forefront of caring for these people at end of life, you have an opportunity to tell them that there is this, and it may very much be of value to their family. There's a lot of people too that don't necessarily have a church home anymore. Maybe they have been not well enough to attend. Maybe they don't feel the need of it. But a lot of people don't have spiritual guidance and don't have emotional support. And there's a lot of people alone. And you see that. You see they may have money to pay for our services, but they don't have a lot of people. So that's another really important part of the death doula's work, is that you are going to be there with your person when they pass. No one should ever pass away alone. And I think that even if they hired me on the day that they were passing, I would want to be there for them as they passed. So it's an interesting space, and it's there's still so much to share with the world about what exactly the end of life doula can do for families, you know, experiencing the death of a loved one.
Thank you.
Well, how did you come across being a end of life doula?
It's funny because we've talked about it quite a bit, and I remember talking on the phone to someone and telling them about watching Survived Death series on Netflix. And then being at work like the next day and working with a hospice client and I used to go out and do the intake and what have you, and coming back and sharing with my office, and then all of a sudden it just shows up in my feed somehow. And I'm like, what in the world is this? I've never known. And so I didn't have anybody to go to. I only know people since I did my training. But before that, I knew no one that did this work. And I just dug in, looked for associations associated with it, found where there was training available, um, and it was just one of those things that gets a hold of you and wouldn't let go. And that is so true. Like it's every day. It's every day in my head and on me.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's how I know about it. Good thing Facebook did one time.
What if someone's interested in, like a client? What, do we give their name to you? And
So you're
them?
gonna call the office. If your client expresses interest, or if you make mention of it, involve the office, and then, they can go from there and find those resources and call around. I think I saw Marcel's hand raised. Marcel, go ahead.
Yes, I may possibly be interested in learning more about that
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And folks,
because I've had the experience of being with clients, not at the moment that they passed, but being there just prior to, and that kind of thing, and being with the family and everything. I think I might be interested in learning more about that. So where do we get the training? Is this through Home Instead, or
not
how
through
do you
Home
get
Instead,
the,
Marcel. You could certainly research on your own online. And then again, if you want to email Miss Lori Gillespie, she'd be more than happy to be a resource.
Absolutely.
okay.
Another question.
Yes. Another question, virtual friends, go ahead.
There was one from
Amanda?
There was one on the side, right there.
Oh,
Right there.
I'm sorry, dear. Okay, I see it now. My client has DNR. Is there something I can do more to be prepared for when something does happen?
Oh, that's a good question.
That is.
Yeah, DNRs always kind of get people a little freaked out. And I feel that, that's part of the planning and taking care of making sure that you have a good death. Um, so knowing that they have a DNR, if someone falls and busts their head open, they're going to take them to the hospital and sew them up and send them back home. They're not going to run a whole battery of tests on them and see if they have a brain bleed or any of that sort of thing. That's because they're on hospice or they have that DNR. But knowing that they have a DNR I feel it's an open door, because they've thought about their mortality. They've made a decision about it, and because they have, I feel like you can talk about it and allow your client to talk to you about it. That's a very open-ended question. What made you decide to sign a DNR? And just be quiet and listen and let them talk, because that is the very what's the word I want to use? It's therapy for them. It is a, a way for them to get their head around exactly, hey, what have you done here? You've said don't resuscitate me. And now it's like being able to discuss it and talk is part of the process of being okay with it.
Right.
So that's all I can really offer, when they have a DNR, is that you just be aware of it, and they can change their mind at any time on the DNR.
Right.
Most of the people who have signed it realize there's really nothing they can do for me in the long run. I'm leaving. So yeah, just to be able to have some dialogue, I think would be huge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did that help answer your question, Amanda? And as far as DNR laws, they will vary among us, different state laws. So just always double check with family and with the office. We don't want any confusion around the DNR order, what family says, what client wants. It should be all in sync. If it's not, you're going to reach out. Okay. But these are good questions. And folks, do we have any more thoughts or questions for Miss Lori? Lori, again, I want to say thank you so much. Round
Thank
of
you.
applause. Just thank you again. Just really appreciate having you with us today. Thank you.
It's
Oh.
been a privilege. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Lots of love there. Let's give Miss Lori lots of love. Yeah, it's such a hard topic, but look at how we were all able to come together and even smile or laugh through some of it. Because you realize just how empowering it can be when you call upon each other, right? And again, Lori, thank you so much. The areas in which we can offer support, gosh, there's so much, right, folks? I mean, think about what you can do here. Personal cares, as we know, the physical support, the companionship, the emotional support. You do the meal prep, the housekeeping. You're offering a break to the family. You're helping around the house. You're taking the lead. And we think about taking initiative, and we've got to be careful here, especially here with end of life care, because we know we're task oriented, right? We're go-getters. We're going to get the job done, which is awesome. But it might be that in this chapter, the families might be wanting something to do. And if you go ahead and don't ask before you do, you might have taken away that activity for them where they were going to be preoccupied. So before you do that laundry or do those dishes as you normally would, double check. I was going to do this. Do you need any help with anything else? Should I do those dishes? You'd be surprised. They might say, you know what? Can you leave them for me? I think I need something to do. Go be with mom. I'm going to do some dishes and just get out of that room for a little bit. So I would say the power is in the ask. Just keep communicating, keep asking, and how you can support them. It's going to